Welcome back, boys and girls. I'm glad that you could join Waypoint Kids for another one of our Elements in Faith lessons. Last week we had started to work on some lessons with science experiments, and we're going to continue to do some experiments throughout these weeks and series as we continue to find ways to use science to tell us some stories of God and all of His mysteries and the miraculous things that He can do. How many of you have ever thought about, if I win $1 million, this is what I would get? What kinds of things would you buy if you had $1 million? Would any of you get a house? Did you know that houses are probably one of the most expensive investments that we can make? How many of you have a house? Did you ever think about all of the things that it takes when you have the house? Do you lay in bed at night during snowstorms and wonder if it's going to be warm in the morning or it's going to be chilly? What about in the middle of rainstorms and thunderstorms? Do you hear the rain on the roof and think, will the roof leak? Do you wonder about that? Do you wonder about being protected inside your home? Now, what do you think your parents do to help protect you? Do you think maybe they get insurance on the house, they make sure there's a roof, make sure there's good windows, insulation? Maybe they have people come in to spray for bugs, or maybe you have a security system. All of those things your parents do to make sure that you are protected in your home. Now, we protect our houses and we protect our homes not just because it's the house, not because of what's on the outside, but we protect them because of who's on the inside. Maybe it's our pets, maybe it's you guys as kids. We want to protect those things. We want to protect our stuff. So we do these things to protect ourselves, to protect our investments, to protect all of our people. And we want to be there for them. Last week in our series, we talked about a cloud in a bottle. We used that science experiment, and it was to represent the pillar of clouds that were used as Moses was taking his people out of Israel, and they were following the cloud. And do you remember who was in that cloud? Like who did that cloud represent? It was God, because it was to represent that God is always with us. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't have a map to follow, but the cloud and the pillar of fire were there to guide them by day and night. And it's their way of telling us that God is always with us. Now today, we're going to have a new story from the Bible. We're going to catch up with those Israelites. And today they're just about ready to enter the promised land. And they're going to discover a new reason to have faith. So we're going to see this video.
The Faithful Hall of Fame, Joshua. This is Joshua.
Hello.
Joshua was the leader of the Israelites, who God would use to take his people into the promised land.
Yeah, let's do it.
Joshua readied his people to cross the Jordan River, which was the only thing dividing the Israelites from the land that God had promised to them.
All right. Right here. Okay.
They camped beside the river for 3 days, waiting, just as the Lord had commanded them. At this time of year, the Jordan River was flooded and flowing with so much water that it was impossible to cross on foot.
And then the Lord said, "Let there be light." Hey, priest. Yes? Come on.
God told Joshua to tell the people that the priests would carry the Ark of the Covenant and lead the people through the water. He told the priests to step into the rushing waters.
What? Huh?
And when they would do this, the waters would stop flowing.
What?
And as soon as the priests did this, the water of the Jordan River did stop flowing.
Yeah.
And the priests stood with the Ark of the Covenant on dry ground, as the Israelites crossed to the other side.
All right.
God told Joshua to send 12 men from the 12 tribes of Israel
Go get it.
to take 12 stones from the place that the priests were standing. When all this had been finished as God commanded, Joshua called the priests from the Jordan.
We're good. Come on.
As their feet left the Jordan River, the waters came back into place, just as they had been.
Wow. Yeah.
They brought their stones to their camp and set them as a memorial, so future generations might remember the story of how God brought his people through the Jordan River on dry ground.
How many of you knew that video? How many of you remembered that they parted the Jordan? I bet most of you are thinking about God parting the Red Sea, because that's when they were freed from slavery and they left Egypt. God did the same miracle again by parting the waters so that his people could cross over the dry land. And after the people had crossed, God had brought the waters back together and washed away the Egyptian army when they were parting the Red Sea. But it had been a generation since that miraculous day. And so when they came to the Jordan River, most of those people didn't remember what had happened with the Red Sea. But God performed the same miracle with Joshua to show the people that he would always protect them, just as he had for their parents. Now, we can have faith knowing that the same God who parted the Red Sea and the Jordan River is watching over us and protecting us today. I started this lesson by talking about things that we don't always think about. Things like the rain falling on our roof, and are we protected, and are we safe? And it's okay because it's all been taken care of without having to ask. Our parents have taken care of all of those things. They've made sure that we are safe. They've made sure that we have the food that we need, the cars to get us where we need to go, a place to stay, a place to do our schoolwork, a place to feel loved, and we are protected. Now, I have a science experiment for us today. We're ready for our science experiment. You're going to need a few things. You're going to need a few glasses of water, an empty glass, some tape, and some string or yarn. Now, this science experiment is called the traveling water. I'm going to try and transfer the water from one of these cups to this empty cup. And when I do that, this time, I want you to watch what happens when I pour the water into the cup. It makes a mess. It splatters and it gets all over. But with this experiment that I'm going to be showing you, we're going to take our empty cup, and then we're going to take our yarn. And what you're going to do is you're going to dip it into the water. And then you're going to pull your string out and kind of just squeeze all the water out of your string. And then you're going to take your piece of tape and you're going to tape one end of your string into the bottom of the empty cup. You do not want your string to touch the edges of the cup. Then you're going to take the other top of your string and dip it into the cup. And then, now when you pour the water, it travels down the string and into the other cup. Now, why do you think that happens? Any guesses? It's called cohesion. The string was already wet. We'd already gotten the string dipped into the water. And so when we went to pour the water into the cup, it attached to the string and traveled down the string. And this experiment reminds us of God parting the Jordan River, just like he parted the Red Sea. And all of those remind us that God is there. He's here to protect us. This week we talked about protecting us. Last week we talked about the fact that God is always with us. I want to go to our Bibles and I want you to turn to Psalm 77:14. This is our memory verse, boys and girls. It says, "You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples." So, as we're using our science experiments to make things look like miracles, God performed actual miracles, and He loves us. I'm so glad that you guys could join us. I hope that you have a great week. We love you and we miss you.